What's going on, guys? Welcome back to this week, January 17th. We are live from Buckboard Marina again, doing the live show. Tonight we're going to have Brian Brosdahl on the show. He's going to talk about some stuff going on up in Minnesota, some perch, walleye, panfish action. So we'll have some good conversation there. Hopefully some good tips, techniques as well. We mainly talk about lake trout, salmon, trout, all that stuff behind us. So Bro's going to hopefully give us some input on some of the walleye action and perch and stuff like that. So he's going to be joining us here shortly. So hopefully we can get some comments rolling in here. Those of you that are watching, welcome back to this week. Had a pretty wild weekend this last weekend. Had a big storm come through Friday. It was pretty crazy. Did a lot of stuff on there. And, a lot of snow, a lot of wind. It was pretty wild. Got the Mac Attack tournament done, completed. That's kind of behind us. And now we're looking forward to the Burbot Bash coming up here in a little bit. Yeah, we got some more snow today, so winter finally decided to show up out here in Wyoming anyway, in a major way, closing most of the state, most of the roads down. But hopefully things are they're warming up actually, so that's good. Was able to take the boat out yesterday afternoon. It was 11 below in the morning. Took the boat out in the afternoon. Caught a couple big fish yesterday from the boat. So here we are, mid-January, still on the boat. The good news for you guys that are watching, is basically everything from Buckboard down south to the pipeline, if you're familiar at Flaming Gorge, has capped over. I went out there, checked ice today. I would strongly suggest not going on the ice, as it was about an inch and a half thick of ice out there. So there is a little bit of snow on the ice, so, it all does look good, but I can promise you that it is not. So with the warm temperatures that we have coming up this weekend or mid next week, hopefully we get a couple more inches on that before the Burbot Bash. But if you guys are going to be fishing that, use extreme caution out there, because there wasn't a whole lot of ice that we had for the Derby. And like I said, most of the lake was open Sunday and capped Monday morning. And like I said, there is about an inch to an inch and a half of ice out there. From the different places that I checked, it was all consistent. So it's pretty much enough ice to get you in trouble out there. So just stay off the ice out here for the time being. Have the proper safety equipment when you do go out there. Your spud bar, picks, a buddy, something like that. So it looks like Bro has joined us, so we're going to bring him on here. So we're going to add him on here. How's it going?
It's going good. I just got off the ice. I hate to taunt you with it, but
it's usually the other way around.
Yeah. We had a strange year this year, as everybody else did in the ice belt. We actually had a thaw in late December and January. Never happens here. Just doesn't happen here. And here we are, middle to end of January, and we've got a lot of lakes with 8 to 11, 12 inches. And there's a few spots where they're 17, 18, and they're driving trucks. But
oh, wow.
Some lakes are still, they had open spots only 3 to 5 days ago, and they just sealed over and got snow on them. So it's not a year to skimp on drilling. And I've been watching people take a snowmobile. They drill one hole and then they just keep going, and watch them go right by this skimmed over hole. And you can't mark hundreds of acres of ice everywhere, and it's not my job. You're supposed to drill. So, right. And then I see a little car on 10, 11 inches with a trailer, and they're driving really slow, but never got out to drill. Like going slow over thin ice ain't gonna help you at all.
No. Do they have their windows rolled up too?
Oh yeah, twice I'm like, here comes an ice rescue, and then I got to stop what I'm doing and pull them out. And, but everywhere I've been, I've drilled, and that's why I could hardly walk, the last week. But it's it's fun, but it's a weird year. And if you take your razor auger and razor some holes,
There you go.
it to drill with that thing, even like with a 6-inch bit with the wings, is no effort. An 8-inch is
Nope.
no effort. So there's no reason to skimp. And then it's a good excuse for you and your buddies to get out. Get somebody who likes drilling and put them out first, and then you can let them drill, and then you can pull the machine up and then let them drill and measure. And usually Heather's my machine driver, and so I'll wave her up, and then we can drive back in. So that's what we do when we take machines. That's what we do when we take vehicles. I measure, and I don't know, after this year, I would have been happy with 14, 15 inches. I want 18 now. I'm getting, after
Getting greedy.
almost 3 decades, I was just like, I want more ice this year because there's just been more accidents on the charts than just about ever. And but outside of that, you can look online about ice safety, ice thickness, all that stuff. Go
Yep.
figure it out. Let's talk about fishing tonight.
Yeah.
We had some monster bluegills, and I'm about to name the lake. The lake is Upper Notelli, and
All right.
but oh, they're monsters. And I had some pictures here, but they were coming, they were suspended, and they were dropping down. And the waxworms were hit. I had Eurolarva and waxworms, and the waxworm was better. Two of them. These are big fish, and so and then last night had some really big walleyes. But the fishing is pretty good, but you can't go everywhere. And in a normal year, we'd be buzzing over here, buzzing over there, and hitting different things. And now we're like walking over here, drilling,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then
Well,
walking over.
welcome to our world out here in the West, walking
Yeah.
everywhere on the ice.
Well, I feel like I've had my out west training then,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah. You guys are ready to come up next year. Now you got the training in. You just need a bandana.
yeah, I'm hoping that there's a snowmobile launch somewhere sooner or later over there, because I do like taking the sled. The sled is my mule, and
Okay.
I like to load the mule up, you know. But
Yeah. Yeah. Out here, we get to walk, a mile to 2 miles. On some years when the ice isn't thick enough to get snow machines. Of course, out here, most of our snow is here for about a day, then the wind blows it over to you guys in
yeah,
Minnesota. So,
I like snow, and I know that makes the wheelhouse people nervous, but there's a big walleye that I
oh,
let
wow,
go.
there you go.
Very comfortable in the otter, and I know you love your otters too, but
Yes.
I have the Pro X over, and what I like about it is you can flip it, you can set it up for side doors. It's got a front door. It's so warm, and then I got an extra tray to keep our stuff in. So we have the waxies on high alert right next to us,
There you
and
go.
it's it's just great. And I'm gonna, hey Heather, you got that picture of that bluegill? See, we're pros here, right?
Multitasking. Yeah, she just said hi on there a minute ago.
Yeah. Well, and so this, I've driven to Idaho and fished perch because I've got the ice affliction really bad, and if anybody ever comes out this way, you could just give me a shout, and you could see there's the one of the
Oh, wow.
biggest
Yeah, there
gills.
you go.
That's like a 10.5, and I got my ugly fingers in there, but just a beast of a fish. And we like chasing those big. We catch them, we throw them back. And when I went out to Idaho and I fished Cascade Lake, this is a big fish destination, and I I catch perch all the time at home, but they're not like that.
No, they're a different level at Cascade.
Yeah, they're I catch these 10 to 11, sometimes 12, and we were there looking for trophies, and we threw everything back, everything except those two back there.
Up
And
behind you. Yep.
yep, it's hard to
There you go.
show you or right there. Okay, one of them is 16 and a half, and the other one's 16 and a quarter, 2.25 pounds, and 2.2. Those were amazing fish, and okay, Heather caught them.
Yeah.
And I didn't catch anything that big.
Well, when the women usually come fishing, they end up catching bigger fish than we do most of the time, anyway.
Lady luck.
Yeah, it's a real thing. Brian says
is.
hello.
Oh, how you doing?
So, and then Tell says it takes a 2-beer walk to get to that one bay while ice fishing. So, I guess that's how we measure walking on the ice out here. It's a 2-beer walk to the spot.
Well, I don't know. Have you ever seen me drink 2 beers? They don't last
It's
long.
a little quicker than that.
You ever see Popeye squish his spinach and it goes in his mouth? That's my beer right there.
Yeah, and then we see you got Kurt here says women always win. So
yes,
he's well versed in that as well.
Yeah, and when I was out there, true story, we're new to the lake, and I didn't want to go down. There's like areas that are community, and it's a parking lot, and there's people all over. We went to the most desolate areas, and I looked at the map, and I picked off stuff in the old shoreline, and we set up, and I said, "Here you go. You're in this otter. You're styling. I'm heading out of here," and start drilling holes for a mile and a half and on foot, and then I get a text, and I'm not even done with my holes. Is this a walleye? And I look in the picture, and it's a perch, and it's the tail's almost up 3/4 of the way to the top of the 5-gallon bucket in water. She put it in water so that she could show it to me. She wasn't sure what to do, and I said, "I'll be right there." And I went back, and here's this monster perch, and I'm like, "That's bigger than anything you've ever caught." So why don't we mount that one? And I know perch are for frying or whatever, but these are different. So I didn't want to just start whacking a bunch of them in.
Yeah, there's not many lakes that the perch is the predator.
Yes.
In the lake. And that's in Cascade for the most part. They do have some pike minnows up there, but for the most part, I mean that is that's the predatory fish up there is that perch. Well, the perch you got behind you there. I mean those are the eating machines out there.
They like them little kokanees. That's like a nice little slippery snack for those big perch. And when we were catching perch, we had kokanees right there too. And I'm sure there's some perch crunching on them because. But more than that, perch eat small stuff. They eat a lot of insects, and I noticed there's an extreme amount of bloodworms in that lake. So it must be monster midge fly hatch over there.
Yeah, so I Tell asked if the redworm hatch at Cascade is a regular thing, and I can tell him that it is because last couple years I've been going up there and fishing the big derby they have up there for fun, and the year before last the bite was so bad up there. You really had to work for the fish because, I mean, I had the live scope down there, and you could literally see them like they wouldn't come off the bottom. Because they were just gorging themselves with the redworms, and you'd catch them, and they'd just be spewing redworms, out of their mouth. And so, like that redworm hatch, that they have in February or late January, sometimes lasts for a couple weeks. And I know that year it lasted for like 2 or 3 months. It was just crazy.
Well, they get really active, and the redworms are actually bloodworms is the old name for them, but this is coronamids, and they actually live in the mud, and they have cocoons, and they fan water through and eat deciduous matter. Well, I had a hard time saying that. You can tell I haven't had that beer yet.
You did good. But you must be sipping wine over there.
Well, I got a little something in there, But
there you go.
But
it's not a perch or a walleye in there again, is it?
No, I'm not going to pull a fish out of it. I promise. I'll behave now. So they eat like the decaying stuff in the lake, so they're really healthy for the lake. And in the winter when the snow gets really deep, they get super active, and at night you almost have to shut off your graphs because it's just static and on some lakes, and it's probably quite possibly the most important food source in the ice belt because bloodworms exist everywhere, and every fish out there, except big toothy things, they eat them if they can grab them. And
Yep.
I've caught fish on bloodworms. I actually designed a tail for that, and I've caught fish on in the Black Hills in South North Dakota, all the way down to Florida. I actually put one on a rod, and I fished off a pier and got a 5 pound bucket mouth on it. I've caught bluegills everywhere I've ever fished, and they exist in freshwater all the way up to the brackish waters and up to the Arctic Circle. So without those, disease might get in the lake and kill a few big fish, or we might get zebra mussels. But if anything ever kills the bloodworm, we're in trouble.
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
So but they actually get really active in midwinter because the snow gets high, the ice gets a little thicker, and they come out, and there's always something bigger than another thing. So zooplankton is microscopic. You can see it on your graph if when it comes up. It's just these micro animals, and bloodworms eat them. So they come up and they eat them, and they get real active, and it's just carnage down there. And the perch are like, "Let's grab some."
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, they go pretty crazy. So what's so far this year, early ice and stuff. Let's talk about the bluegills because there's a few guys watching right now that have a few, bluegill lakes by them. Kind of what's your go-to, bait or lure that you like using for bluegills and kind of the presentation?
Well, tonight I got it on a flat fry jig, which shows up really nice on forward viewing and depth finders. It's actually a tungsten jig that has flat sides to it, so it's called flat fry. But not on like chartreuse or anything. I got it on purple Wonder Bread,
Okay.
and that color. There's something about it because I was up in the UP for 2 different photo shoots, which is the Upper Peninsula of Michigan last
Yep.
year, which that's not next to me. I had to drive there, and that saved us over there. That's what I got my giant fish on over there, and both times we were there. There's something about purple, and then that Wonder Bread design. So, and a lot of the stuff came out of the Great Lakes, the trollers and salmon spoons, whatever. But it's kind of neat that these colors. So that with a waxworm caught it, and then I was using a Brobug spoon, which is real skinny little spoon with eyes that come out,
Yep.
and they're actually got these little tiny silver eyes that are stuck on there. And if you drop a camera or something, the first thing you see when you look around with a camera, you see those eyes. And I think they really help you in the perch department. So, uh, but I like to hang the waxworm off, maybe gob one on in a circle so they can't get it all. And I love maggots because they're tough. And you know as well as I do, when you're out running around hitting holes, that waxworm finally just comes off, and it's
Yeah.
nothing but.
Well, and some of those panfish are pretty good at being robbers.
Oh yeah, they just come up and they peck it, and then you got to reload it, and they're fantastic. But bluegills, they have crushers in their throat, so sometimes they feed and they're easy to catch, but most of the time they expel it as fast as they bring it in. So
Yep.
watching a tip up here, I always watch people setting a hook and missing. But now with forward viewing and underwater cameras, you can watch it take it in a little bit more, and then I kind of lift. I do the test, like lifting a
Yep.
dipstick here. You
Yeah,
just kind of
that's what I do.
the rod bends like that, and then you finish it off. And bluegills are wary, and they have binocular vision just like crappies do, and they can see things that are microscopic that I have no chance of ever seeing because I'm
Right.
not, my vision is not that good anymore. But and they kind of pick at stuff, and so you want to use they're real sensitive to bright colors, and they love pink, orange, chartreuse, green, and then there every now and then dark colors. So purple Wonder Bread was important. So and they in clear lakes they'll move morning and evening, but they'll feed an area different from where they're hanging. So if they're in the weeds, they might go out to a little depression out in front of the weeds. So there's probably some spots that haven't been yet discovered, you know. So
Yeah.
fun fish to go
You
for.
know,
Yeah.
what's funny about that Wonder Bread color is one of the top like kokanee salmon. You can see them kind of behind me up here. The red dudes.
Oh yeah.
Um, that Wonder Bread color has been really good the last couple of years, and then Wonder Bread out here in those jigs and stuff like that works great for panfish out here. So it's just, I think it's one of those all around, kind of newer or maybe brought back to life colors
Yeah.
that really gets the fish going. Because I know it works out here too.
That's that's what I love, and I like anything new, and tungsten's been a strong seller, and everybody wants it's 30% heavier and it's smaller than something lead, and so why not have it? And that's what I love about it. Um, but there's still slow falls kind of important, and in the trout world, you want something that tumbles and goes all over the place and flips through and it draws them in. Well, with perch, that's important too, and that's why lighter spoons are really nice. I'll even go down to a glass buckshot, and I never got a chance to try that there because I got the prototypes year after, and but that iridescent paint job is going to make a big difference on the really tough bites, and colors like pink lemonade,
Yep.
uh, natural perch, that kind of stuff. So you can never have enough stuff. And a lot of people just want something that rattles or rips or, and that's fine. We know that stuff works, but
Yeah.
in my world, it doesn't work more than like maybe 3 times out of 10.
Right. Yeah. I mean, even up here for the big lake trout, it's not the same as everybody, out in the Great Lakes where you can just go out and get wild with stuff out here. They're really honed in and picky, especially at the gorge out here. You really, it kind of hones your senses out here in your presentation. But Brian says Wonder Bread works great out on Superior too for coho
Yeah.
and lake trout. So I have tried a few tactics out here, for lake trout that work in the Great Lakes. Growing up in the Door County area in Wisconsin, sometimes we'd use those big. I'm trying to think of those big spinning glows.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I've used some of the big ones and run them behind giant pop gear. And I remember had a client last year. It was his 60th birthday, and I was like, "Well," I said, "I haven't tried this, but we can try it and we'll see." And he's like, "Oh yeah, let's do it." And I remember dropping it down there. No sooner it got to the bottom, I saw a big fish come down at it. And you know what? The first 20 minutes of the trip, we got it was like a 33, 34-pound lake trout. And he just sat back and relaxed the rest of the day. There's 3 other guys. And every time we'd hook one, he'd be like, "Yeah, I already know it's not as big as mine."
I
But
love it.
anyway, it's weird how it's kind of cool, and maybe not so much weird about how stuff, that works, that kind of works everywhere. And I guess it would be like a staple, for those guys watching, if it's something that works everywhere, if you travel a lot in the winter, out here, we'll travel 3-4 hours one way in a day just to go fish a lake for a day, where, you guys kind of have, a couple, about a dozen or so lakes that you can go that are within at least a half hour to an hour.
Yeah. Well, if I go to the right out of my driveway, that's Itasca County. There's over 1,000 lakes just in that county.
Yeah.
If I go to the left, there's like 800 lakes, and then within if I say within an hour, I have a 220,000 acre lake, 115,000, which is Leech. Red Lake was the first one, but we can only fish part of it. Lake Winnebagosh is 65,000. Cass is 25,000. Bemidji's 10,000. Bowstring's 10,000. I like that's okay, but I want a bay or a smaller lake sometimes because
Yeah.
a 3,000 acre lake's a big lake.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you've never fished it, trying to break that down, that's a lot. That's a lot of holes. That's a lot of holes, even for the razor to drill.
Well, yeah, you got to razor some holes, but at least I guide on them in the summertime, so I transfer the stuff. But you know, I'm not always on those great big lakes. I might be on a 1, 2, 3,000 acre lake, and I can hide out there because if there's an island or a few islands, or some of them don't have an island, but there's enough there. But that being said, not all of them are firing at the same time. You can go to a lake, 3, 4, 5, 10,000 acres, and it can be terrible. And
Yep.
depending on bait fish, we have a perch explosion here. Not big ones, micro perch. These little perch are everywhere. You could drop a lure anywhere on Winnie, Leech, Cass, surrounding area lakes, and it gets surrounded with little micro perch. And of different year class. So there's the little 1.5 inchers, there's the 2s, 3s, and so they're just everywhere. And the fish are all heavier than normal, and they don't want to bite. So you really have to just, for walleyes, that is, you really have to
Yeah.
work at them. And perch, the bigger perch are full of those little perch. The smaller perch are still looking for bugs, but so when they get big enough, they're going to feed on the underlayer of forage, and you're going to see it's going to be crazy. I'm sure they're going to start eating the walleye's food, and it's going to bite. But right now, that's nature's way of saying, okay, you can't take them all.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Brad says that you never even tell him the lake that you're on. You must blindfold him or something.
Well, he'll ask me what lake, and I'm like, I'm on the Upper Well Lake, or No Need to Know Lake. You know, I've always been cautious, and just because loose lip sinks ships, and
Yep.
I don't need to go to a 200-acre lake. Might have a school of 400 fish in there, and you don't need to spread that out. A lake that might have 2 people on it in a month, then all of a sudden you got 200 people out there in a weekend. I think that it's on us not to bleed ourselves out online and spread mass populace to a small school of fish. And so I've always been very conservative on wiping out lakes. I've seen it happen firsthand.
Yep.
Because if you're going to drive, let's say if people are going to drive 4, 5, 8 hours, they want to know, and they're going to try to gather intel along the way. Well, I'll tell people how to do it, the depths and everything, and then they'll figure it out from there, or kind of a range or an area. But I
Yep.
can't say, okay, go by this stump over here, or this rock, or
Right.
this rocky, or this shoreline that has red clay coming out. No, you can't do that, because you got to. It's got to be fair game, and as a guide, you don't want to wipe out everything you got. But it's more than that. I've seen lakes get with tens of thousands of crappies in them just get completely destroyed.
Oh yeah, I mean it's Ryan says that social media is the demise of good fishing spots. You know, I would agree with that too. It's just another tool, right, to share, and it's everybody's more connected with social media, phones, stuff like that, than they were 10 or 15 years ago, and even out here, the biggest thing I try to share with my clients out here when guiding is like focusing more on the structure and the presentation that we're doing for these fish, and not so much the spots. Because
Yes,
if all you're doing out there is looking for spots, you're not, as a fisherman, you're not learning. You're not trying to grow yourself as a fisherman. You're trying to find spots. And those of us guides who are out there doing the work and stuff like that, we can continually be on the fish because we don't have to rely on the spot all the time. We rely more on structure and patterns and stuff like that, because I can guarantee you, if you're fishing like say like a point, or gravel, something like that, there's another place or a few other places on the lake, even on a small lake, that are exactly the same, and those fish hold more, key into more to that structure, as well as the bait too, than they do the actual spot.
exactly. And in social media, you could private message. You could give a spoonful, but you don't have to put out a full plate. It doesn't
Exactly.
mean don't do anything. I, the clues are all there. I give clues, and people figure it out because they tell me they do. I always tell them exactly like it is. but I just don't name. I ain't gonna give you a waypoint, and sometimes maybe I don't have a good waypoint. Maybe when you get all these cold fronts rolling through, it's tough, and even as a guide, I have to work at it, and so there's no guarantees. But you know what? The people are doing good. They're sticking with it, and I'm telling people, don't you're gonna have 25 walleyes roll through in the hour of power right at dark,
Yeah.
and you're
Yep.
gonna catch 4 to 8 of them. And if you're not tuned in, if you're not listening to the lures I'm telling you, you're going to catch one or two or zero. And so I've honed it down. They like the iridescent color. They like they like aggressive jigging. But as soon as they come in on that screen, you gotta take it easy and just move it. And if you move it away too much, they're gonna go. I don't need that. See, I got a perch laying over there I could eat.
Yeah, exactly.
So in super glow and there's just a lot of stuff, but there's ways of helping. But the bleeding online is where they go online and they go, oh, I can't help myself, and then I got all these fish right here, and you see it everywhere.
Yep.
And so that's the hard part. In that you're not going to see a whole lot of that in Minnesota. You might see it in surrounding states where they'll tell you everything, and then and
Yeah.
every and they go to the access in the spot that was online. It has 35 boats or 40 fish houses on it. Minnesota, they ain't doing it. They don't. And those sites that come over here, they don't make it because they keep it quiet. Because it's a little different. You get a lot of it's a destination place in it's pretty amazing. But we always say, yeah, they're biting on red.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You can only fish 50,000 acres of the 220. The rest is private reservation. So that's like its own rearing pond over there. You know what I mean? And so they
Yep.
can't fish it out. It's amazing how much pressure that lake takes, and there's no end to them.
Yeah, I mean that's all you ever hear about is Red Lake or Mille Lacs. I mean, yeah, I'm all the way out here in Wyoming and I see it, and so imagine like all that social media stuff, and then you have you have about an eighth of the lakes that you guys do, and you have Denver went from being a city of a couple million to 70, 80 million people. Same thing with Salt Lake, and then next thing one person posts one picture, and now you got to be careful because, I mean, there's people that go to the length of they have apps on their phone that if you don't turn the location off when you take a picture, that
Yeah,
it'll actually they could plug it into their app and it'll actually tell you exactly where you're at on a lake out here. And it's bad. It's like that everywhere, but ice
yeah,
fishing out west has blown up so much the last 5 years out here.
yeah,
I mean, it's crazy with social media. It's good that everybody's out there. And real quick, Big Todd says, "Good evening, fellas."
all
So,
right. But
uh,
good evening.
yeah, Mr. Hennenberg.
Yeah, how you doing?
So, yeah, we all had a good night at the St. Paul show out there uh,
Yes.
with Team Otter. But anyway, getting back to the hot spotting and stuff. Yeah, it's bad. And then there's a lot of people that there's a little search button too on there that they can go on and search what's been posted, but no one does that because they just want it given to them. But I mean, I don't want to really rant a whole lot on that, but it is for those of us who fishing is kind of our livelihood. It is most of us didn't ask for handouts. We put in the time and the work, and it's much more rewarding as an angler, I think, and just as a person, than when you figure something out or somebody gives you kind of clues and you piece it together. I have one of my buddies that we'll be catching kokanee. He won't be catching anything and just kind of driving by, and I'll just start throwing out words to him each time he goes by. He'll be like, "What are you catching him on?" I'm just like, "Well, 60 feet." And then the next time I go by, green. And then, stuff like that. And so it's good. It's good fun. But I know it's just something about figuring stuff out on your own that is just a little bit more rewarding. But
Well, and now
yeah,
we give them a range, or I'll tell them where they could access that on a big body of water. And send people to resorts that actually go out and drill and check, and still, once they get outside of that ring, they gotta keep an eye on it. But there's a lot of water, and there's a lot of good bites, and there's people who have good bites, and they don't share them with me. So, but I kind of know, I have so many places I gotta go to before I can drive to a place, and but when I have time off, I like visiting the West. It's a lot of fun. It's a different terrain, and you got great views, buttes, mountains, prairies in between. It's kind of a neat thing, and it starts at the edge of the Dakotas through Montana, and then Idaho and Wyoming. It's really cool, and I've been through there, and it's a lot of fun, and we enjoyed fishing in Idaho, and I'd like to fish some other stuff. And we were really low carbon footprint. You're looking at it right there.
Yeah.
Uh, Two fish. I would see cleaning houses, and they'd have 60, 80 fish. And I'm like, this is a trophy spot. You can eat perch anywhere. Perch exists in a lot of places.
Yep.
You know, maybe keep small ones there, but we figured perch tastes like perch. So yeah, so we're low carbon footprint, but if we could ever find any more, we'd like to try it. It's just fun, that seeing the mountaintops, and and everybody there's really nice. Tom's Bait and the local places you stay at, pretty cool people, and they're from all over the place.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I mean, they are, and it's a great. I mean, we always have a good time every time we go up there. I have some buddies that guide out in Idaho, and they work with Tom's quite a bit out there, and have a booth, and so it was kind of good when we go up there. Doing the behind the scenes stuff that everybody doesn't get to see with those big tournaments, and just talking with all those guys there, and it's a cool place. It's when it snows any amount, it's not very fun getting to, because the only way you can go through is one canyon, and all it takes is one bad driver.
Oh yeah,
but when you get up there, it's like its own little world up there at Cascade, and there's another lake just about, I think, a half hour north of there. It's got some pretty good lake trout in it too.
yeah. It just seemed like there's a lot of good areas, and when it snows there, people are ready to ski, and they're ready to take their long tracks out and hit the hills, and so there's a lot of different loves for the outdoors, and it's kind of neat. We're there fishing. We're doing more of a sedentary thing, but you can hear them ripping them pipes and hitting the
Oh yeah.
throttle in the hills, and the skiing, and so it's a diverse economy there, and really enjoyed it, and I'd like to get back there, but it's a long drive. I have to drive by
Yeah,
I
I
have to
know.
drive by Fort Peck. I got to drive by Devil's Lake to go there, and that's really it's really tough. And I'd like to fish it all. And you know, people want to travel all across the world and check out cool things in other countries and this place and that place. I want to check out more in this country. This country has a lot of cool stuff, and it's one thing to rip through on a highway and breeze through. It's another thing to stop and check it out.
Yep.
And when I was going through that canyon, you say, going up to Cascade, I might be driving a little bit, speed limit a little over, but there's people ripping around this stuff, and you can see their car tipping. They're so
Yeah.
used to the roads, and they're not going to make it if they go over. And I like making it, so they can just pass me.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of cool things out here, and I'm with you with going to places around the country and stuff like that, because I think it is something that being lit growing up in America and stuff, that we don't fully realize or appreciate just how diverse the country is. Geologically, how
Yeah,
fortunate we are with the vastness of different regions and stuff like that, and even different fish that we're able to catch. And a lot of people, when they think of Wyoming or Colorado, the first thing that pops to their mind is trout. And then but I can tell you that Colorado has a lake, Spinney Mountain, that has some of the best northern pike or biggest northern pike that you're going to find in North
Oh, yeah.
America. You know, they've been catching some pike over there for years that are in the mid 40-inch range.
That's amazing, and those
Just
are
massive.
huge.
Yeah. And, you know, and in Colorado, they don't want them. They consider them not everybody, but like for the most part, the powers that be don't want them in there and have bounties and stuff. So growing up in Wisconsin, it's weird for me seeing stuff like that where you have different seasons for, I mean, even burbot, you know, for the eel pout, you guys, that's like a coveted thing. And here where I live at the gorge, there's no limit. You can keep as many as you want.
Ooh.
And, you know, it's and that's what the burbot bash coming up in a week and a half. That's the big burbot tournament up here.
Well, and even on a massive lake, you can exterminate burbot. In Lake of the Woods used to be full of them up here, and that's 1 million acres. And then they were trash fish. They're throwing them outside their house, and then I remember years ago I got to go do cleanup garbage, and I said, people throw garbage out. No, I got to go pick up all the eel pout. I'm like, why don't they throw them back? Oh, we don't want them to because they're garbage. They're rough fish. Now, you know, after the explosion, people found out how good they are to eat.
Yeah.
Now, if there's an eel pout laying there too long, someone will come up and knock, and you hear a knock at the door. Hey, are you going to keep that eel pout? Yes, I am. As a matter of fact, I'm going to eat that tonight. But you don't see as many because they became popular, and now everybody's after them. And in northern Minnesota, when I was a kid, perch were considered a trash fish. And then someone come over from Wisconsin, hey, you should try these perch. They're really good. And now the Minnesotans fish for them, and now they're thinking they shouldn't have told us. You know, they shouldn't have told us because there was no limit. They would leave with a truck bed full of them, and now they're split. You know, they're getting hit a lot because no one ever even bothered fishing for them. It wasn't a walleye or crappie, or it wasn't a big northern pike to spear. And that's what it's from place to place. It's different, and it's really cool. Yep. In the West, I don't see it as trout. I see Washington with monster walleyes, giant sturgeon, and untapped resources of smallmouth bass like Coeur d'Alene is a lake on my hit list. And I know they don't like walleyes. They'll pay you to take them out of there.
I'll drop a lake that is probably better than Coeur d'Alene for smallmouth, and that's Dorshack.
Well,
we've seen some 8-9 pound smallmouth. I've seen some online come out of that the last couple months.
It'd be fun just to go hit them, and with smallies, we're just gonna lift them up, throw them up in the air like a beach ball a little bit, hug them, bite them a little bit, and then let them go. Because we love them so much. You want to hold them. You want to smell the fish. You want to just look at it up close. And it's not about killing it. We just want to catch them. Want to see how wild they get. And then you could just like go get a burger at the place down the road, right?
Yep. Yeah, nothing wrong with that at all. Yeah, it's crazy. The West and our ice fishing season typically is a little bit longer out here than the Midwest with the help of the mountains. We're usually, up in the mountain lakes sometime mid to late October. And then, last year was such a long winter. We were ice fishing like at the end you could ice fish at the end of June. I didn't do it because last year, and I don't know, I might regret saying this, but I think last year was the first year of my life I was over ice fishing for the year, because for me it started in the beginning of October and it went all the way. The big lake here, which usually freezes about the first part of January, and then ice off, comes about typically, the end of February to mid-March. Last year we had ice down here all the way till the 2nd of May. And so up in the mountains, they had ice up there till some of the places didn't unthaw till July.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, being out here last winter was brutal. The mountain just south of here got, I think it got close to, if not just over 1,000 inches of snow.
Oh, geez.
So their previous record was I think 750 inches. And they blew by that last year, and it just seemed like it'd be cold and then here it's weird. It's cold, and it only warms up in the winter to snow, to get a blizzard, and then it turns back. We had this Friday. I mean, we had all winter long so far. We've had nice weather, 30s, 40s, calm, and then this last week has been brutal. Below zero, 50-mile-an-hour winds, and somehow it figured out how to snow. And when it was that cold, so everything here just drifts, and it gets wild pretty quick. So having a full 6 months of that last year, it was about the only time I was. Typically, I'm ready to go ice fish but last year it was. I was over it. So
Well, and you can imagine though, in the UP, they got Great Lakes on both sides, and they just get nailed. So I was fishing with Justin Sofa up there, and I'm like, "Does it snow here a lot?" And he said, "It doesn't snow here. It dumps on us. I mean, it
yes,
just dumps." And we're there, and you're in deep trough, in your sled going out there, and you'd never be able to walk in this stuff. And then it snows that night, and it's filled in, and you're following him, and you're doing this, and he just keeps getting snow and snow. And I seen that in New York on the Bro Roadshow. I went out
oh
there
yeah,
and did the stores. So I'm over at Oneida, and they got great big hybrids, just really cool lake with dynamics of big jumbo perch and walleyes. And it's gets hit, so I could talk, but it's like Red Lake over there. So you could go there and you could be a dinosaur barbecue that night. So they got some cool things over there, and I don't know, I didn't see if they're still in business, but really good barbecue there. And
yeah,
then here you got this really cool lake there, and every area's got a cool thing. Champlain doesn't really freeze well, but there's bays, and you start getting into Kingston, then you're on the edge of New York. You're on the edge of the wildness, but from west to east, there's so much. And here in Minnesota, there's lakes I haven't been on. I've probably fished, 3,000 lakes maybe here. I don't know. And you kind of get stuck in the same ones because you want to catch fish.
yeah.
And I'd love to get up there, and they got a bounty of smallies, and just a lot of public land. So it's a very cool area. A little bit more than I can afford, though.
Right, yeah. It's pricey out here. We stumbled upon a show idea of traveling around the country, checking out local cool places to fish, eat. I mean that sounds they got all those cooking shows where they get to go look at all those restaurants and do all those cool little knickknacks. I think it'd be just as cool to drive around and road trip around, and even if it is just ice fishing stuff, like going to different small towns and seeing the cool little local areas, and then having an opportunity to share that with viewers and everybody else. I think would be kind of neat.
Yeah, ice and dives, right? They have that show, the diners dives. Maybe ice. You want to keep it open for open water, so
Yeah.
fishing and foodie. There you go.
Yeah. Brian said we could just call it Bro Uncharted.
I need a partner though. Just you got to have someone. You got to have someone keep your back or keep your front. Because you're in uncharted areas, and you got to pull each other out when you're eating too much barbecue, because
Right.
you got to fit in your clothes, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I gained a few pounds after coming back from Minnesota. I'm always reminded every time I go back home or go back to the Midwest, just how good the food is and how much cheaper it is in the Midwest than it is here. So it's double trouble for me every time
Well,
I go back there.
there's good food. I'd go to Tom's and get some bait in the morning, and then I'd go over to there's a restaurant right by Tom's, and I am sorry I can't think of it. They had breakfast. I mean, and just
Oh
beautiful
yeah,
breakfast.
there's that little diner that's right there.
And when I see a small diner, you want to give them business, because that's what they're there for. And you go in and you get the local flavor, and and they know you're there for their perch and and stuff, and you're trying not to run into a caribou on the way, because they just stand on the road and look at you like I'm not moving. There's
The
there's a
deer,
there's
caribou in the headlights.
yeah, there's a whole
Oh, it's
bunch of those
called grandmas. Grandma,
grandmas.
GRAMMA. I had to look
Yeah,
it up because
that was
it
that was great.
that place was really good.
Yeah, and so it's fun. You kind of take it in, and like here, you're going to go out and you're going to go to in Deer River. There's a tiny little place, and it's called Sportsman's, and you could go in there anytime, and it's full, and you'll find out why when the plate arrives. And they don't just give you a few fries. You have to say, "Hey, I'm good here." I mean, they they're they get me.
Right? Yeah, we might
It's a little tiny place.
think about this a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it, we fish because we're just into catching fish, but you see what's around there. When I was a kid, as my sister-in-law, she said, when I was a kid, I was an old man in a little kid's body, because I come up with something at 9 years old. She goes, "Why do you want to fish so much?" And I said, and this is, she wrote it down: "Fishing is my excuse to be in extraordinary places." And she goes, "Wow, you're possessed or something,"
You're
is what she
possessed.
said. And so I would fish, and every day offshore. Or at 9 years old, I was running a boat by myself, which now wouldn't happen,
No.
But running a shallow riffly river with a boat. And did I get in trouble? Yes, I did, and I made it back in semi half a piece. But fishing is fun, and what you see, the sounds you hear, even in the wintertime, is the big secret. You see deer, you see a moose once in a while still in this area. You see wolves or coyote running across the ice, and yeah, okay, deer hunters, don't get mad. I just, you see them,
Yeah.
it's still majestic, really
Yeah.
cool. And then the fishing, and you work hard. You walk out there a couple miles, you drill holes, exert yourself, and then come back and go find out which place is cooking, right?
Yep.
And that's what it's all about. It's about fun and sponsors. Otter makes these houses that, I mean, you could drop them from a tree. You could run them over,
Yep.
and they had those commercials how tough they are. And
Yeah, that they had that. They showed that retro commercial. They were talking
yeah,
about maybe they need to redo that and bring it back.
yeah, I like it. And the I'm heaving mine into the truck, into the trailer, running across bare ice, because I got the high facts on there, and then you're hitting stuff. You're going over ridges, and every now and then you'll find a ridge where somebody had a different house, and there's pieces of the house and some fishing poles laying on the ice. They were probably crossing at night, and I can tell you, otter ain't going to do that. And all their accessories, we really like the tray. Has a little leg that comes down,
Yep.
and you have drink holders. You have place to put your wax worms, and it's like a good surgeon has somewhere to set his instruments, right?
Yep.
And in otter, they take it serious, and make you a
Yeah.
surgeon when you're
Yeah,
fishing.
last week, I did my live show inside the Otter Pro Resort, the Pro Resort, and that thing is so big. I love it. Last year I was out in like 60, 70-mile-an-hour winds. It had that sucker strapped down, and I was really impressed. Not only that it stood up to that, right, but that it was actually fairly quiet inside.
Yeah,
Yeah, I did a few videos of that because I was just blown away because I fished in different hubs in the past, and
yeah.
these things they're heavy, right? But it's quality made stuff, and it's stuff that's gonna hold up to, I guess, the adventure style fishing that we have out west, and then the crazy weather we get out here being so high up. There's a lot of days where inside those huts, I only have to run the heater for about the first hour or two, and then that sucker's warm the rest of the day, and that's
It's
pretty cool.
it is, and when the sun comes out, you might not need a heater. And I love the resort, and that's a great client house because you got three boat seats in there. I mean, it's comfortable, and so they become surgeons. They're ready for operation, and then I'll supply them with some rods, and I could hitch it up. I could drag it with a sled or a four wheeler, and or by hand, and I've been doing that. But when I was walking and hoofing it, I was using the Pro or the Cottage. The Cottage one person is
Yep.
actually quietly a great two person. You don't want to be in there with another guy, but I'll be in there with Heather. You know what I mean? It's a little
Yeah.
bit cozy,
Yeah.
but you put that otter seat that you can put on a bucket or anything. You put that on a tray, and you're rocking two people in a cottage, and I think that's really cool. And then that has the side doors and the front door. I think it's a flip style house that becomes a side door house. Genius stuff. And then I like that they got flipper hitches for your sled or your four wheeler. You could attach otters together in a train, and then the lights with a dimmer switch.
Yep.
So I don't
I
think
love
people.
I love those lights. I just I got onto those this year at the show. I was like, well, I don't know why I don't have any of these, but I did the show last week from inside the hut, just having it powered, with those lights, and it's pretty awesome to have in there.
It
It's
is.
it's pretty easy to take down and put up too.
Yeah, and you don't want to. Where I'm at, it's one of our lakes. They did a Secchi disc reading where they dropped a disc, and when they can't see it, that's the reading. And 26 feet of clarity on Lake Winnebagosh this summer. And you take in the wintertime, you don't want to have beams of light coming down the hole because it looks like an abduction of
Yeah,
aliens.
right. Yeah,
You want it dim, like, hey, maybe
it looks
instead of trying to,
relaxing. We should go check this out.
yeah. But if it looks like Spock is beaming you up, you better watch out.
You're right.
That's what the walleye say, and so that dimmer is perfect for that. And you hook that up, and you're ready to rock. And I like with a razor auger, you can configure the holes anyway. We
Yep.
like to do a straight line so that we can see all of our lines. And if you're fishing three people, you do four holes. You do two on the outside and then two close together, and then make sure that you're on the right side of the beam on the
Yeah.
forward viewing.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be backwards because it's hard enough if someone's never ice fished before. But and then if you want to, it's so big, figure out where you're going to put your heater, and then have a dead stick hole. You can have one out here. You can have one right next to you, and there's so many ways to do it. And then the hubs, that's a whole new conversation because they have every footprint you can imagine. But you
Yep.
could take a hub and fish a group together, and you could camp in it, and it's quite possibly better than any tent on the market. And it's just an amazing company, and so is Razor, and that's why they're doing so well. Razor augers, if you go to all the shows that I've seen in Minnesota here, there's more orange leaving the buildings with customers, happy
Yep.
customers, than there's any other brand. Everything else is just sitting there because we're razoring holes, and other people want to razor holes too. You don't even feel it go through the ice
No,
when it's
that's
loud.
what I try to explain to people is, you get twist with some other stuff, and there's no twist with this, and I get in trouble all the time from Nick. I'm sure he's going to watch this because I like to send videos and pictures without the handle on the drill that he can't use, and I was like, well, I don't. I told him, I said, I don't need it on there. He's like, yeah. He's like, well, I know we don't need it, but he's like, we got to have the handle on there. But I mean, it's so smooth, and they're light. I mean, I packed them up, a couple mountains this year,
Yeah,
and I mean, it's a great tool for everything. Any kind of cutting a hole in the ice, there's really nothing better.
the best part about it is the way you're able to expel the slush. If you don't want to pull slush up and get it on the side of your otter or wherever you're at, you could just go through, kick the snow away, and then push the slush down by reversing it. And the only thing I will say, I like to have the handle on there eventually. And that you're in a little less ice than we are here. In this deep ice and with slush, you're going to find out how many bones you have in your wrist someday. You got to have that side handle because when you catch, I caught a couple years ago, actually, before Razor, and heard a little crunching. So it's not. it's just for safety. But if you got less ice, you don't have the worries here. A lot of times we're drilling through 30, 40 inches of ice, and when you get down to the bottom, you're really pushing it, and you have to clear it over and over because it's filling with water. But we don't have to worry about that this year so far. But yeah, so depending on what tool you use, I have a DeWalt because it's attached, and I have a Milwaukee too. I've had many Milwaukees. I've burnt out both brands, in that deep stuff, and I don't send it back to get fixed. It's my fault. And but the Milwaukee handle comes off over and over, so I lost it, couldn't find it, and I ordered another one just so I have both. But I
Yeah.
go to the DeWalt because it goes on the front and it ratchets down. And if you're in a foot or less, or even 16 inches or less, you'll be okay. But if you're getting that 30, 40-inch stuff and you got deep snow and slush, like I said, you're going to find out how many bones are in your wrist.
Yeah, that I might. Luckily for us out here, we don't get enough. Last year we got plenty of ice. Just we don't really get a whole bunch of snow. Kurt says he loves his razor
Oh,
out
yeah.
here. So
It's amazing. And I've used the other brands. They're good. But now that I've seen this, I wouldn't want them anymore because, the wrong plastic, or there's one brand that's really popular or changed everything. It was strange looking when it first came out, but it sticks. If you're on wet ice, it'll spin you in a circle.
yeah,
That
yep,
cool. And I ain't gonna say the name. I'm not here to knock them. I'm just saying we've gone up to the next rung. We're not sitting down here in this rung anymore, and that's why you see a lot of augers sitting around, and you see Razor selling out. And they've got a good thing, and they've got a patented technology there, and their flutes are virtually indestructible. But if you torque on them and something happens and you break one, they actually throw extra ones in, so
yep.
you don't have to track them down, worry about it. And they have serrated blades, and they have little pockets in the serrated blades that kick the dirt to the dull spot. And
Which is great. Which is great for us out here because with all the wind we have, there's a lot of wind and dirt and all that is into the ice here. And I remember, a couple years ago, a brand had a electric auger that came out that everybody was buying like crazy. I bought one and I drilled about 3 holes and the blades were toast.
yeah,
And just drilling through that sandy ice, I guess you could say.
yeah,
And I haven't really. What I will say is, I was up in the mountain lake I haven't been to, and what sucks about that sometimes is there's a lot of random boulders in these lakes. So I found not one, not two, but 3 that day with the auger, with the razor, and you know what? I had to put a little. It felt weird having to put a little bit of pressure on that drill, but it's still, you know what? It's still razored through with
yeah.
no problem. Took a little longer than it normally does when the blades are actually the way they're supposed to be, but it still worked. And if I would have had, something else, I probably would have been done drilling other holes.
And what people got to understand is with Razor augers, their blades are cheaper than other auger companies, and blades are blades. They can only take so much, but your cost to get a new blade is way less expensive because there's no middleman at Razor. And so Razor is it comes out of Mountain, Minnesota. They have the augers built. They sell them right there, and uh, they're just great. And there's a lot of places that have the blades. You could probably check with. Well, I know for sure Up North Sports and
Marine
well,
General.
Marine General, my favorite, and Corey over there, and Russ Francisco. Russ is in the Hall of Fame. He's been going for many years, and
Yep.
but yeah, so I never go anywhere without extra set of blades and then a ratchet wrench. It's super fast to change them. And see what I hit. We got zebra mussels on plants, and if you hit an emergent plant that's froze, you don't see it. You'll hit the zebra mussels and go through. And I've had every blade out. I've had every auger out there, and I've had before Razor. I've had some other ones really with some gnarly looking cool stuff, and they all are susceptible to zebra mussels. It doesn't matter. And but I love my Razor, and I like The 6-inch bit is great for drilling. They actually have a 4-inch bit.
Yep.
Everybody's wondering, what do you do with it? Well, I actually mark it around the edge where I have a foot of ice. And when I hit a foot of ice, I know I'm good. And I
Okay.
just keep going. And so you can mark it off. And they make little tiny ones like, whatever. But, you can't fish out of that hole. I can still pull a pretty good perch or eater walleye out of a 4-inch hole. And we've pulled pike that were, pretty close to 30 inches out of those holes. So once you get them started, all they can do is go straight up and they jump.
Yep. Fly right out of the hole.
Absolutely.
Well, awesome. I think it's usually kind of wind down. We've been chit-chatting for over an hour. So, let's throw one last bit of advice or anything fishing-wise and go ahead and wrap up the show. We kind of covered a lot of different stuff tonight from those big bluegills, some walleyes, and just kind of traveling around. So it's been pretty fun show. The last hour, it didn't really feel like an hour to me.
That's fast. Just remember, if you go to Cascade, a electric perch brobug or sneeze is a good color out there with wax. I love waxworms out there. And then if you're on first ice and you don't have any snow, cracks in the ice, the ones that are refroze, give you an indication of how thick the ice is.
Yep.
If you drill a hole next to and it's like a weld, it's not going to break there. It's going to break somewhere else unless it's thawing. So the crack, you could see how thick the ice is, and you drill a hole next to it, and you can gauge it, and then the cracks actually indicate it. But if it's an open crack or if it's moving, that's what you don't want to mess around with.
Yeah.
So there's clues. Or drilling holes, depending on how much slush or snow comes up, is indicative of how much ice there's. If there's not much snow around a hole someone drilled, that's a clue. You better start drilling.
Right? Yeah.
So use those clues, but everybody be safe on the ice. Don't be a statistic, and a statistic doesn't mean dead. We don't need any negative stuff with ice fishing. Stay on top of the ice and have all your safety stuff, and nothing's going to happen. And outside of that, enjoy this ice season, and hopefully you think about otter and razor the next time you're in the store, or you're thinking of a purchase next year. Consider them. We make our bread and butter using these products.
Yep. Guide tested, abused, and approved, right?
Yeah, we're easy on stuff, aren't we?
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for watching the show this week, bro. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, and we'll see you in ice.